Okay, so we are going to do the remaining part of lecture 10, where this lecture is divided into three parts. We are focusing on the structure of ear. The second part, we will discuss the auditory pathway. And the third, we will discuss the different auditory disorders and their effects related to behavior of individual or psychological behavior of an individual. So, a very quick overview. We know it already. The ear is divided into actually three. The human ear is actually divided into three parts. If I ask you to concentrate on this diagram, just a while. Okay. If you concentrate on this particular diagram, the human ear is divided into three parts: outer ear, middle ear, and the inner ear. So the previous slide that was focused on pinna and eardrum, we have already covered. These are the part of outer ear. But if we are focusing on the tympanic membrane and these three tubes, these three bones, ossicles, the ossicles and the tympanic membrane, they are the part of middle ear. And all the remaining part, including cochlea, including eustachian tube, including these muscles, this is all the part of inner ear. So the human ear is divided into outer ear, middle ear, and inner ear. This slide is focusing on the middle ear. Okay, within the middle ear region, we have already covered the tympanic membrane is a thin membrane-like structure. When the sound wave strikes to it, it starts vibrating, and it it can convert it. It can increase the vibration of sound waves from 5 to uh, this this tympanic membrane. It vibrates in response to the sound waves, and it is basically converting the air vibrations into mechanical energy. Please be focused. Sometime examiner might ask you that which part of the ear is responsible to generate the electrical impulse. Neither the pinna nor the auditory canal, nor even the tympanic membrane, nothing has the role in the conversion of the sound wave into electrical impulse. They are just converting the mechanical energy into in sound waves into mechanical energy. I'm talking about the tympanic membrane. After the tympanic membrane, this blue one, if we enlarge this part, this is the tympanic membrane. Tympanic membrane is attached to the three bones. If you observe very carefully, so you can see the first bone is malleus, right? And malleus is attached with the help of ligaments. Ligaments are the structure which attach bone to uh, which join the two bones together. So ligaments are joining malleus is the first bone. The second bone is the incus, and the third bone is the stapes. So all these three bones, what is their job? In generally, we call them ossicles. They transmit and amplify the vibrations of tympanic membrane to oval window. There is an oval window inside. This one is oval window. The oval window and tympanic membrane are far apart. Here is the tympanic membrane. Here is the oval window. The two are separated. But what connects, what bridge them together? The vibrations of eardrum reaches to the oval canal with the help of these three bones. And and these ossicular lever system increase the sound wave pressure by 20 to 30 times. Okay, it acts like it is a mechanical process, and it is increasing the pressure by 20 to 30 times. This is an important piece of information. Then the next one is the eustachian tube. Now the middle ear description is done. We are talking about the inner ear, the eustachian tubes. If you look closely, uh, the eustachian tubes are starting somewhere here and they are the part of inner ear. The purpose of eustachian tube is to equalizes the air pressure across the tympanic membrane. The air pressure that is reaching to the eardrum, it will be equalized. This is a big place, big cavity, so eustachian tube will equalizes the pressure at all the places. Then the next one are there are certain muscles, and the name of these muscles are tensor tympania and uh, stapedis. If you remember their names, it's wonderful, but at least you should know that inside the inner ear there are particular type of muscles that protect the ear from very loud sound by damping the ossicular movement. If the ossicles will vibrate very faster, so a very loud sound can be produced. This sound dampening effect is done by these particular muscles. Okay. Up till now, we have covered pinna, external ear canal, ossicles, estrogen tube. None of the structure was responsible to convert the sound waves into electrical impulse. But here comes the most important part of the inner of the inner ear. Within the cochlear region, there are inner ear cells. These inner ear cells, they are 3,500 in a row, and they are actually the true sensory receptor which convert the mechanical vibrations or the sound energy into nerve impulse. Means electrical impulse is generated due to inner ear cell. Okay, if we focus on these complicated diagrams, just you need to understand inside the inner ear there are inner ear cell. These are the inner ear cell, and these are the outer ear cell. Okay, the inner hair cell are actually responsible to convert the mechanical waves into the electrical impulse. Now the outer hair cell, they are 12,000 in a row, and they amplify and fine tune the vibration. Uh, Maybe you have heard some disorder that senior citizen, they are unable to hear the faint sound, the sound they can hear the sound but they cannot understand it because they cannot fine tune the sound. So if there is some problem like that, so you can say that maybe the outer ear cell are not amplifying the sound waves, or they are not fine tuning it. For that reason the person is not able to hear properly. The next one is the tectorial membrane. If you see at the top of outer and inner hair cell, there are tectorial membrane. This tectorial membrane is actually actually a gel-like structure, and they contact both outer and inner hair cell. The outer and inner hair cell are separated. This tectorial membrane actually connect them. Then, if we look closely, we can see the basal membrane right here and right here. These basilar membrane, this vibrate in frequency. Uh, this vibrates and act as a mechanical frequency analyzer. Like there are so many different type of sound frequencies around us all the time, but we cannot hear all the sound frequencies. There is a certain range for the frequency that we can hear. Maybe you have heard about it. Before the earthquake, the kettles or pet cat, dogs, even the small animals, birds, they start chirping and they become they show some kind of irritation or irritability. The reason is the animals can hear the very low frequency vibrations that are being generated due to the possible movement of tectonic plates that a human ear cannot listen. Okay, so basilar membrane, it is responsible to analyze the frequency of sound. Whether what is the frequency of sound? It is a kind of a meter within our ear to analyze the frequency of sound. That which frequency of sound, which uh, frequency of sound can be heard and which cannot be. Okay, so the very first part of the of uh, auditory pathway, the structure of ear has been completed, and now we are heading toward the auditory pathway. This diagram is really very important. If we concentrate over here, this is the tympanic membrane. This diagram is actually not showing the external ear. It is mainly focused on middle ear. From the middle ear, this is the tympanic membrane, and these are the three bones: malleus, incus, and stapes. Right now, these bones are transferring the sound wave to oval window, and the sound waves are then transferred to the semicircular canal and the cochlea. Remember, within the cochlea, there are inner ear cells that get stimulated, and this electrical impulse is generated. Uh, our syllabus included two of the sense organ. One was the eye, the other was the ear, and likewise, the like the human eye was connected to the optic nerve. In the same way, human ear is connected to vestibulocochlear nerve. Uh, it is written CN8. CN refers to cranial nerve. Our nervous system is divided into two parts: cranial nerves and the uh, the spinal nerves. All the nerves that are arising from the human head region, they are cranial nerves. And nerve number 8 is responsible to transfer the electrical impulse from the ear to the brain. When the examiner asks you the auditory pathway, means what are we concentrating, that how sound waves are generated, how electrical impulses, at which point electrical impulse is generated, and how this electrical impulse reaches to the temporal lobe. We need to explain that entire pathway. This is our second very important learning outcome. Okay, so our outer ear collect the sound wave, middle ear vibrates and amplify the sound waves. The inner ear, it contains a special type of inner ear cell which convert the sound waves into electrical signals by the process of signal transmission. Okay, within the inner ear, the electrical impulse is generated. Now, this electrical impulse will be transferred to the from the cranial nerve. This is the diagram of cranial nerve. The cranial nerve, this one, this cranial nerve is being passed from the internal ear, and this electrical impulse is carried away from the cochlea. Here is the cochlea region. The electrical impulse will be carried away from this cochlea region, and this is important for us to understand. Okay, after the midterm exam, we have developed our understanding about the different parts of the brain, and we know that the sound waves do not directly reach to the tympanic membrane. First, they pass to the brainstem. Now, when I say the brainstem, you can think of medulla oblongata, right? So, within the brainstem region is the first stop where there are special type of cochlear nuclei. This nerve enter into medulla pons junction, and this allow electrical impulse to reach to the second stop. What is the second stop? Within very close to it, there is a specific region, superior olivary complex, and this complex is basically present in the pons region. So what you are going to write, you are going to write that cranial nerve 8 transfer the electrical impulse to the cochlear nuclei present in the medulla and pons region. From there, the electrical impulse is passed to the superior olivary complex within the pons region. After that, this electrical impulse reached to the third stop, that is lateral lemniscus region, and this is actually a switchboard within our auditory pathway. It turns your head to a loud sound. Like when a loud sound is coming, it make our auditory system ready to perceive a loud sound. After that, the electrical impulse reach to the fourth stop, that is medial graniculate body, and this is present in the thalamus region. Okay, if we see a flow diagram, so the sound waves are generated by ear from both sides. From both sides, the cochlear vestibular nerve 8 transfer this electrical impulse to superior olive region. From superior olive region, it reaches to the inferior colliculus region. From inferior colliculus region, it reaches to the thalamus region. And from the thalamus region, this electrical impulse is reached to the auditory cortex within the temporal lobe. The information arrives to the primary auditory cortex within the temporal lobe. So this is something we need to understand. If the examiner is asking you the auditory pathway, here you need to write the entire pathway from which electrical impulse is passed. Okay, I have noticed that sometimes students write the structure of the eye or structure of the ear if the auditory pathway or visual pathway is asked. So please be very careful. There is a mnemonics, there is a short way or a short key to remember. Equally means the electrical impulse is passed from 8 uh, vestibulocochlear nerve. From there, it passed to the cochlear nuclei that is present in the medulla and pons region. From there, it is passed to olivary complex, superior, lateral lemniscus, inferior colliculus. After that, it reaches to the medial graniculate body. And then finally, the auditory cortex. We cannot jumble up or we cannot mix up these stations. Here's a flow diagram to understand or comprehend the same topic. Okay. Indeed, it's a very complex diagram. So we are not going to concentrate all of it. We are going to discuss only this red part. The Within the cochlea, electrical impulse is generated. From the cochlea, the electrical impulse is passed to the cochlear nuclei in the medulla and pons region. From there, this electrical impulse is passed to the superior olive region to inferior colliculus. Then it reaches to the thalamus region, and ultimately it reaches to auditory cortex, which is present in the temporal lobe. Both right and left temporal lobe receive these electrical impulse, so we can hear the sound. We take listening such a for granted process. Why understanding auditory pathway is important? Because the different hearing problem could be related to the pathway blockage, or maybe the sound waves pathway is blocked, maybe the ear canals are blocked, or maybe uh, there is a damage in the inner ear cell, maybe the uh, the vestibulocochlear nerve is damaged. So if there is a blockage uh, 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 kind of health disorder in which the person cannot hear, maybe it's a temporary kind of hearing loss. But what if the nerves are damaged? So it can be a permanent hearing loss, or if the pathway is affected. So from this lecture, two parts we have complete. Out of three parts of this lecture, we have completed two. The first one we discussed the structure of an ear, and then the second one we have done the auditory pathway. If there is any question, you can ask, Beta. Shall I continue? Okay. Now we are going to discuss the clinical disorders of audition, and uh, for every clinical disorder that we will listen and understand, we will consider how it will affect the behavior of an individual. Okay, as a psychology student, you come across different subjects and you observe the behavior. And with the foundation of biopsychology course, you will try to find the reason of that psychological behavior first related to biology, or first related to that why the person is behaving like this. Maybe there is some physiological reason, underlying physiological reason. If a person do not, if a student do not concentrate in the class, so instead of labeling the child ADHD or autistic child, first try to understand, try to get it diagnosed, that whether the student is able to hear and able to see the objects clearly, and then if the information will not be perceived, how the student can learn and understand, and how the cognitive process will be pursued. Okay, so the first disorder we are going to discuss is conductive hearing loss. In conductive hearing loss, the sound waves pathway is blocked or reduced, so the sound waves are not reaching to the cochlea. Means that there can be different reasons for it. Maybe curcumin, the or earwax impaction has been done. Some earwax have been collected, that can definitely be cleaned with the help of an ENT specialist. The second one is otitis media, where the middle ear, means the tympanic membrane or the ossicles, the three bones we learn, malleus, incus, and stapes, maybe any microbial infection, bacterial, fungal, or viral infection must have occurred within the middle ear. This may cause conductive hearing loss. The third possible reason is osteosclerosis, in which the stapes bone, the last bone which was transferring the sound waves to the oval window, if it has been fixed and it is not vibrating to transfer the sound waves to the cochlear region, this can also be a reason of conductive hearing loss. Or it may be perforated tympanic membrane. If the tympanic membrane is perforated, so it will not vibrate that faster, or the sound waves will not be transferred. So this is something we need to understand, that if a person is not able to hear, and the underlying reason is the wax has been accumulated, I think everybody can understand the wax can be removed. If there is any um, if there is any infection, so that infection can be cured, right? So this is an indication that conductive hearing loss sounds to be reversible. If there is a damage, if there is any such underlying reason, it can be reversed. Maybe some medical or surgical treatment could have been required. For example, if tympanic membrane is perforated, or if a stapes is fixed, so it might require some surgical treatment, but definitely it can be overcome easily. How, like, this is the most important part of this disorder. If a person is suffering from conductive hearing loss, how they will behave? uh, they appear frustrated, they do not want to communicate to anyone, they feel social withdrawal, and this is a very common disorder in children with chronic ear infection. If a child is experiencing chronic ear infection, they feel they, they prefer to stay isolated because in gatherings, in social gatherings, they are unable to hear things properly. So they prefer that instead of embarrassment, rather to better to be isolated. Okay. Other type of hearing loss is sensorineural hearing loss. Now you can understand from the name of this particular disease, sense sensory neural hearing loss. It means that there is some connection of neural pathway or auditory pathway is involved in it. How sensory neural hearing loss has occurred? If there is a damage to the inner ear cell were confined within the cochlear region. Show you the diagram to recall. This is this is the cochlear region, and within the cochlear region there are nerves and there are inner ear cell. Can you see? If the inner ear cell of a healthy person are like this, but if the inner ear cell are damaged, so they will not vibrate, and if they will not vibrate, so entire nerve neural pathway will not happen, so the person cannot hear. It is most common form of permanent hearing loss. Some time hearing loss is permanent and it is irreversible, and it has been commonly found in case of aging. There are certain professions, for example, the mine drilling, the person is working with very loud equipments, um, or the person uh, is associated with a profession where the noise exposure is continuous. So in that case, the person may experience damage of inner ear cell, and this sadly this appear to be almost irreversible hearing loss. There are certain viral infection, measles and mumps. It has been noticed the person who suffer from measles and mumps, not always the case, but it may cause the sensory neural hearing loss or genetic condition. So this is something we need to understand. There are certain effects, that is, if a person is suffering from such hearing loss, they have difficulty in understanding speech, especially in the noisy environment. Like if it is a quiet environment, we can hear a faint sound. But if it is a noisy environment, it is difficult. Like we have, Alhamdulillah, perfectly hearing ability, but still we have difficulty to hear in a noisy environment. Think of a person who has sensory neural hearing loss. They would almost not be able to hear anything. The sound waves will be distorted, and it is often irreversible. Hearing aids or cochlear implants are the only hopes from which uh, can help to improve the condition. Psychological impact: the person who are experiencing this type of hearing loss, they experience depression, cognitive decline, and isolation. The next kind of hearing disorder is the tinnitus. It's a perception of continuous buzzing sound. Uh, Here, to understand this particular topic, we need the basic knowledge of uh, uh, in previous classes we learned that how the neuron get activated, like EPSP and IPSP. We learned that when there is a stimulus, so our our neurons start firing, or electrical impulse is transferred from one neuron to another neuron. After that, inhibitory postsynaptic pathway has to be triggered, so our neurons are not overstimulated. Tinnitus is actually a condition where the cochlear inner ear cell are overstimulated. There is no stimulus, there is no sound wave in the surrounding, but still the inner ear cell, they are continuously vibrating and producing a continuous sound. So this is the condition for which, whether the person is sleeping, working, eating, anything, the inner ear cell are vibrating even without the stimulus. It's a complete quiet environment, but still the person is hearing a continuous buzzing sound. Why? Because the inner ear cell are overstimulated. This may cause anxiety, irritability, insomnia, and the person uh, has difficulty to cope with depression. The person do not feel comfortable, and it is actually the brain's limbic system become hyperactive, and it is responsible for negative emotional response. These people are usually annoyed and irritated, and the tinnitus condition, uh, if the a person who is experiencing tinnitus will become even more irritated, more annoyed, if the person is stressed. Like, if a tinnitus person is not stressed, there is a faint buzzing sound. But if the person is stressed, the buzzing sound get louder and more frequent. So it will cause a lot of stress, and leads to anxiety, and the person do not feel comfortable to interact with others. Okay, the meeting time is about to end. I request all of you to stay in the class to take the screenshot of attendance. While the recording is saved for 5 minutes, I request all of you to join